Hello and welcome to another edition in Between the Pages with James Lott Jr. I'm James Lott Jr. of JLJ Media, my online network of over 35 shows. I'm one of the few Black men that has his own online network, so support me. Do it. I support artists, especially of color and other Black folks of color, who have actually quality work, because we do produce quality work. You know that. And this person reached out to me, and I was like, okay, let me see what's going on with him. First, his first name is the same as mine, so I was like, of course, I will look it up. But this person, he's from Detroit. He served as an Air Force officer specializing in space and missile operations. Like, oh my God, operations is crazy. But he has this thriller series, The Urban Knights. It's a bunch, you see behind, there's a bunch of books there. I asked him which book should I read, which I did on purpose, kind of. But he gave me The Random Affair. That's the first book I got to read in this, and it was it's a page turner. It just, you keep reading it, you keep reading it, you keep reading it. What's going on? It's lots of action. Lots of action, some heart, all kind of things in here. James, I think that's got to pronounce your last name. Is it Roby?
Roby.
James H Roby is here. Hi, James.
Hey, James. That sounds weird.
I know. So I'm like, split personality.
Who's talking?
Congratulations on the book series. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
As I was saying, the book, because the lead guy, Jordan T. Noble III, I'm a junior, so I love the whole suffix thing. But he has like these kind of thoughts, insecurities. You gave him life to me in these books. I mean, sometimes you get these kind of thrillers, you don't know much about the guy. They may have one week this year about whatever, but like, you know, much. But he, throughout the book, does question himself. There's a section where he's like, I had a failed relationship and failed as an agent. I just felt like he felt like a failure. I thought, so was that a conscious choice to make your lead guy three-dimensional?
Well, you know what, and Jordan went through some metamorphosis. I mean, when I first wrote it, when I was years old,
that young,
that young. He was, you know, your two-fisted, jumping through the air, shooting two guns at the same time kind of guy. And I went back and looked at a lot of things and saw that he was kind of flat, you know. I mean, some of the characters that, to your point, that you like is the one who's got some kind of growth, who you know, he starts one place, ends somewhere else. I mean, some of the criticism about some of the older action movies has been like, the guy's indestructible. You know, you get your Arnold Schwarzenegger type character who's just like, you know, he just plows through enemies, and that's kind of boring. So I took Jordan and I wanted him to be in a very different place than when he started in the book. So he has some growth to go through, and he needed to feel some pain, because only through that can the character get better. And that's a trope that a lot of modern fiction just kind of stays away from. We don't want to show our hero weak. But if he never has any kind of weakness, there's no fear. I mean, who cares what happens to him? You know, he's going to get through it. You know, he's going to jump out a window. He's going to defuse the bomb. He needs to have something to overcome, and that makes him a little bit more relatable. And, you know, it's just realer. Realer? Is that a word? Realer?
Hey, we can make up words if you want to.
More really?
Yeah, really? Yeah. I make up words all the time. I don't care. I got degrees. I don't care. I can make up words if I want to. Yeah.
You know, man, you got to be more serious. Okay, this is a very serious. You know, you're too uptight. You know, loosen up a little.
Right,
man,
right, exactly. Never called that before. Trust me. But that's the thing. No, that's the thing. I mean, I agree with you. It's like it makes it more interesting. But I think also when you're reading, and this could be whether it's a Kindle or a regular book or audio, it's different than visual, because visual.
Yeah,
give you cues and stuff that goes on, but this is something different. You want to get into the world, and so to have somebody who has issues and questions himself in the middle of all the drama and stuff that's going on, it has another flavor to it. I like that a lot.
That is a good point. I remember the first movie that I read the book first, and I thought I was some sort of scholar or something. Was Devil in the Blue Dress.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then and while you're watching it, which is a good movie, I know that Walter Mosley's making another movie with Samuel L. Jackson, so about bloody time. Yeah. But the thing about it is that you this was in the book, but this was not in the movie. And a lot of those things, I mean, a scene in a movie can last a few seconds, but in a book, it's like a whole chapter because he's thinking, he's remembering things.
Yeah.
This touches off this emotion, and I think that's what makes the character more full. You know, he's more three-dimensional, as you stated, and I think people like that. People don't want to just okay, here we go again. You know, I've gotten to a point where I can, okay, that's the bad guy. She's going to get killed. You know, this is the bomb, you know, that kind of thing. So I hope I brought some of that to the book, and I appreciate that feedback.
You did, and with Cody Ransom, who's the main bad guy. There's several, like Kevin. There's several bad guys, but he's the main one. I'm not giving this away because I want people to actually go read these books and read this book, The Random Affair. You made some choices towards the end that I was just like, oh, okay, that's not I didn't expect that. And there was a choice I thought would be totally different. I'll tell you off camera. I thought it'd be something different, but I liked the choice you made at the end. But I thought, oh, okay, so this kind of, you know, so you say you're telling me off camera, there were some, as any writer, there were some rewrites, but you have a really strong thing about why you want to not go the route of just another regular thriller with the same endings.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it was to avoid the trope. You know, and like we was talking offline, you see so many of these, you know, directed video, some even major motion pictures, and it's just trope after trope after trope. And I just wanted to keep, and then another thing too is like I really wanted to keep the reader on their toes. I didn't want them to say this is going to happen. I've gotten some feedback about one of the other villains, the CIA agent, and it was like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming. It's like, that's good. That's the kind of thing you want in your reading. So yeah, it was some conscious choices. I wanted to be a journey, the hero's journey, as it was. You know, Jordan Noble he leaves the military at the beginning of the book, and he's come back home, and it's not because he really wants to come back home. It's almost like, I don't have anything else to do. I don't have the military anymore, which is core to his person. What do I do? Well, I got this skill set. I guess I'll go to Detroit and shoot people now instead of, you know, Afghanistan or whatever. And through the course of the book, he starts to realize that, you know, maybe there's more to me than just this bang, bang, shoot 'em up kind of reality, that there's a reason why I'm there. And, you know, not to get too deep, it is an action book and there's explosions and car chases and that sort of thing. But you do need a character who has a little bit of flaws. I think flaws are good. You know, the Mona Lisa doesn't smile. Not to compare my book to the Mona Lisa, but you got to have something that's just to kind of draw you in a little bit more.
Well, you know what's funny? So, you know, it has that. So that's one like through line that's going on. But the actual, like, there's a story is Cody's brother Michael is killed. So now he wants some revenge on Jordan. But also there's this new, you call it crush. There's new higher cocaine that he's also producing at the same time. So it's just there's a whole, you know, I always say villains, they think they're villains. They think they're heroes in their own story, right? That's the whole point.
Right.
So he's trying, so there's that kind of going on. Meanwhile, there's a woman.
Is there?
Robin. There's a woman in the mix that I thought, I did write this down, and I watch soaps. This is not a bad thing. I said, there's a soapy element I kind of liked. I didn't see coming that one of the bad guys is dating Jordan's first love. That made me chuckle a little bit. I just made me chuckle a little bit. It's like, okay, I kind of like that. But you do go into this deep side of Jordan of how he felt. I mean, he said she was a virgin when they were met. He didn't go as far as he hoped he'd had. So that was very, very interesting. So for you to add a female interest in there, what was that like?
Well, you know, I'll start off with this and say about Jordan. I've always viewed Jordan as a cooler version of myself. Some of his background is similar to mine. He reaches a point where he goes in a different trajectory. So with that said, there are a lot of women in my life, and it's always been that way. It's just always been a lot of women. I have a lot of female friends, and I reflect that in Jordan. You know, his mother is referenced. He meets his one of his close confidants is a female doctor. His secretary has a role in his life, and then of course there's Robin, and I think that again that's something to make the character more real. I mean, we like to see these butch macho kind of guys, and everybody's chest thumping and locker room banner, and every sales team's got this big cadre of friends. But more realistic is the woman and the male female interaction that makes the character more interesting, more believable. I mean, that's just a part of life, and I think that's remiss on some of the more prominent action dramas, that they use the women as a prop, somebody to rescue, somebody to just somebody that's not really a person, just something that, well, we need somebody for him to kiss at the end of the book, kind of thing. And I wanted to avoid that.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yes. Well, my favorite chapters, I had a lot of notes on this. My favorite chapter is chapter 10, the fashion gala chapter. 9 and 10. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in that chapter, or this fashion show. And I just want to tell you, I really feel like I was there. I really felt like
thank you
it was very
much.
descriptive, and you had to pay attention. I read the chapter twice because there's a lot going on. Because it was like, we see Cody, and he sees him first, and then later on he sees him, and somehow they meet up. Meanwhile, Robin's there, and Kevin's giving shade to Jordan. I mean, there's a lot going on in those couple of, it's like 9 to 11. All those kind of 3 chapters. A lot going on in those chapters that goes on, and there's all these different moments happening. So I just want to tell you that I really enjoyed all that. And it's just, I'm like, how do you keep track when you're writing an action thriller with multiple characters? What is that like in terms of writing a story? I mean, I'm just like, how do you do that?
Well, there's 2 classic writers. There's pantsers and plotters, people who flowchart the whole thing. This happens, that happened. I'm a true pantser, and I'm a guy. And by pantser, I mean write by the seat of your pants. I sit down the keyboard. A great deal of this novel was created just at the keyboard. Oh, okay, then this happens, and a lot of the creation of that is, I have read a lot of books, have seen a lot of movies, and I knew those pitfalls to avoid, simply because I've seen them so often. So that was a little bit, I don't want Jordan to be like this, but I did want there to be some sort of personal stake for Jordan, and that's the role of Robin. I like to believe that Detroit is a character in the book, and a lot of it is, that scene, the TCF Center, formerly known as the Cobo Hall Center. It's a center point in the downtown region, and it's someplace that that is real and I'm familiar with, and I drew on that because that makes it a little easier to create some of the things. There's a portion when he goes in the hallway, he sees a portrait of the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis, and that's that kind of stuff is not really me actively thinking about it. It's just me writing Detroit as a character, and that's the kind of thing that you would find there. Multiple viewpoints were from that point of view. It's just that I don't know, I just kind of wrote it like what would actually happen in the moment, instead of trying to be so controlling of what everybody says. There's some definite design chaos in there.
Because there's that one, and also towards the end where we have Cody he's knocked out, but then you have the guard over here. He's taking the gun. There's a lot going on. There's a lot. I mean, I had to go back and like a tennis match. I was going back and like, what's going on here? What's going on here? And then I wrote those. I read those chapters kind of twice just to make sure I got what I got, just to make sure. And even the last chapters where it's again we have this whole Jordan Robin thing throughout the whole book. There is, and I wish I was to read. I don't want to give it away, but I will give this part away a little bit. So they have an exchange of sorts, and that's all I'm gonna say. And it's funny, and that shows that even another side of Jordan, as you write about it, like saying how he feels about it. Like, oh, that's a whole other side of him. So I always feel like so Jordan's kind of emotionally stunted on some level, or is he like? I think he's kind of like he's just trained CIA, he's trained agent, trained in this and stuff. But when it comes to personal life, he's not as mature, maybe. Am I getting that kind of right?
Well, I think more than anything is because so much of him has been this trained defense intelligence agent that he hasn't really had time to develop that other side of him. And something that is a fixture in the book as he moves along is that he starts realizing like, man, I'm just having all these, these relationships that don't last, and they're hot and passionate, and then he makes a conscious effort to move away from that. And it's simple because when we find Jordan at the beginning of the book, he's not whole. He's left the military under some mysterious circumstances, which is something I still haven't revealed yet. I'm still teasing that out. Something bad happened to Jordan. He was able to leave, but not necessarily how he wanted to leave. So a lot of his identity was tied into that. And being in the service is a very different world. You're everything from how you dress to how you wear your hair, all this stuff is controlled, and suddenly that's been taken away from him. So he doesn't really know. It's not, I don't think that he's emotionally stunted. He just doesn't know, how can I be who I can be with other people if I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
And I think towards the end of the book, there's a definite scene there where a particular item that he has, that he finally dawns and he realizes he's coming to his own. And until that point, he's really kind of searching who he is, because he always thinks of himself as Major Noble, and he's no longer Major Noble. So if I'm not Major Noble, who am I? And he doesn't get that until towards the end of the book.
Did you go through the same thing?
I did, to a degree, not necessarily to the point of Jordan's reaction. Leaving the service was tough. I didn't get involved in this top secret mission and
I mean that part, yes, but
get court martial.
But leaving that whole discipline where every day things were just set up for in a way that you had to live.
There's some reaction to that. There is a sense of the discipline is gone, and it's like I suddenly have some freedom, which is great. I can do what I want to. I can live where I want to. I can go where I want to. I can talk about the president if I want to. But on the other hand, there is someone snatched a security blanket from me. So it's definitely, it's a major change in life. It's not like just going from one job to another. Yeah. So some of those regrets were definitely transferred to Jordan, but like I said, I amplified a lot of it just to make Jordan a little bit more. He's got an interesting road to travel. There's a scene with him and E-Man where Eric Manning, his partner, who says, hey, ever since you left the Air Force, he hadn't been the same person. And he really doesn't realize that until he hears those words out loud and recognizes his actions. And he kind of goes, man, maybe I'm not. So there's these steps throughout the book where he eventually becomes Jordan Noble, the Urban Knight.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yes, it's not autobiography, folks. I'm just saying. I just wonder if you had a.
No, it's definitely not autobiography. Everybody who knew the secrets of me are dead.
As they should be.
Yeah, they should be. I can tell you, but I have to kill you.
Kill you, exactly. Okay, so, and Cody also was an ex-CIA agent too, but there was this whole everybody, you see different paths they both went. They went these two different paths that collided still outside of the CIA. It was kind of crazy. So I wanted to mention is Detroit. I mean, now you're living in Chicago now, which I love Chicago.
Actually, I'm back in Detroit now.
Oh, you're back in Detroit? Okay, good. Okay, so
back in Detroit now.
So, I mean, okay, so Detroit's not a common place in books, so good for you for doing that for your hometown, doing that. And again, you touched on it a little bit. How important was Detroit to be the backdrop of this story?
Oh, yeah. It couldn't be anywhere else. There's, like, again, back when I wrote this, I was still in the service, and there was this feeling about Detroit that I'll just tell you this brief story. I was at an airport catching layover and sitting there with a group of people, and it's like, well, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Houston. Oh man, I went to Houston. I went to a baseball game. It was great. Where are you from? I'm from Chicago. Oh yeah, I went to Michigan Avenue. It was great. I had a lot of fun. Where are you from? I'm from Detroit. Oh, I got mugged in the alley in Detroit. And it was like, what? So I wanted to show some love to home. But as it progressed, it became more of a thing. Like I think I mentioned Detroit as a character. And I'm from Detroit. I was born in Detroit, raised in Detroit, went to high school in Detroit, went to Michigan State. So I was still relatively close to Detroit. And it was someplace I knew. Places I mentioned are real places. And I just wanted that to be represented. If Jordan was suddenly in New York, or they made a movie, if you guys are listening, that's fine. You can make them in New York. But
Yes.
I couldn't write that because I don't know New York.
Right.
It would have been it wouldn't have came. It would just been a city, and that's what was important to me, because I know Detroit. There's a certain feeling, and you mentioned Chicago. I like Chicago. It's a certain feeling in Chicago, and having been from Chicago, there are things like when I see Chicago in movies, like yeah, I get that vibe. You see the L's and all that kind of stuff. And there's a vibe to Detroit, and I wanted that to come through. So yeah, it was very important that it be Detroit, because Detroit is just like and starring Jordan Noble and co-starring Detroit.
No, and that's the thing I always say about people, where certain stories where it's placed, it is very important. They also about Sex in the City, New York's the fifth lady.
It's got to be New York.
It's Treme, very New Orleans, very Louisiana. I mean, there's certain shows you look at and like that's like all the Law and Order is very New York. For me, I watched Insecurity Saray, very South Los Angeles, not LA proper, but South Los Angeles. She was very specific about what she showed. So I think with your book, I have family from Detroit. I haven't been in Detroit in years, but I know that it has a bad rap. Yeah. I'm from Inglewood, California. We have a bad rap. I know what cities get bad raps, and you're like, okay, there was some truth to some of this stuff, obviously why some of them, but it's not the whole truth. And I love the fact that they made it the backdrop and said, okay, I'm going to turn on its ear a little bit and show you that this is a viable major city, just like any other major city. And every major city has their bad parts and their good parts.
Absolutely.
But why can't it be? So why can't a movie or TV show be filmed in Detroit? Let's get Detroit some business. Why can't we film and make Detroit the city? Why does it have to be New York? The usuals: New York, Atlanta, LA. Why does it have to be
Chicago occasionally?
But why does it have to be? It doesn't have to be.
But to that point, there's also this thing of the portrayal of African Americans, and particularly African American males. And I didn't necessarily want. Let me say this: I never set out to be. I'm going to show America what Black people are about, and I don't necessarily think of myself as an African American author. I'm an author who happens to be African American, so that's my point of view. And when I look out into the world, some other action heroes and thriller novels, and when I see African American characters, they're always the ex-gangbanger who's got a heart of gold. No one's ever college educated or, don't have any babies run around. It's just like they pick these things where it's very easy for people to digest. The notion that all my characters, and I based them upon true people. I've referenced that Jordan is a cooler version of me, but he's college educated. He doesn't have any baby mama drama. None of the other characters do, because we didn't. And it's this in my circle. It's not unusual. Yeah. And I say that to say, it's like writers and screenwriters. They go straight for that ghetto thing because it's comfortable and people can touch. Oh, it's a Black guy. He's a gang member. Okay, I'm with you. Instead of going over here where people are, 9-to-5 workers, or they work in the auto plant all life, or they went to the military, they did this, they did that. That's like, I gotta change my parameters, and that's uncomfortable. And I again, the intent was not to make people uncomfortable. The intention was to write what I knew was true, and I can, Jackie Myers is a character in my book who's a doctor, and she's very much a real person who is just like that to almost an annoying degree, and that's true. And people just need to. I had one person who read my book early on and says, I didn't know what to expect. And I always wondered, what does that mean? And then another person, when they found out the characters were Black, they were like, it was really good, and I didn't think it would be. And because their expectations were put on their ear. So it wasn't my intention to do that. It was just my intention. It wasn't my intention to make anybody comfortable, but it wasn't my intention to make people comfortable by playing to stereotypes.
One of the things you did that I recognize, because my parents' name, I come from West Indian and Creole family and stuff, but they gave off as kids, for another term, they called white names. Names are non-threatening. I'm named after my father, but I'm James Harrison Lott Jr. that doesn't mean anything to anybody, right?
Mhm.
So all my life, I'm in my 50s, I've shown up places and they're like, oh, because they thought
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
white or thought it was something
Yeah.
else. So and
Especially
they,
only know you on by a virtual presence. They never
right.
actually seen your face. Oh, hi.
Yes. Well,
Yeah. Been
your
there,
name
done.
James H Roby is. I don't think black necessarily. I mean, it could
Yeah.
be anything. So I noticed in your story, all the name, but Jordan T. Noble III could be black. Okay, I didn't think necessarily. I knew it was black, just coming from you, but I didn't. Again, if you didn't tell anybody it was black, it's another thriller. It's another thriller, right, so to speak, which is what we kind of want anyway. But you also want to know that black folks can be in thrillers. At the same, it's that two-pronged thing where it's like I'm not trying to, I want us to show that we can be in everything. Representation matters,
It
but
does.
also I don't have to give them an African-sounding name or some kind of name that's super ethnic to make a point. If you do that, it's great. That's the people who do that is fine, but we don't have to do that. It's like it's just, and all your names. Robin Summers, they're all just their names. They're just names. They're American names that could, so I know that feels like with my own name. I'm still black, folks. I'm black. But it's I kind of like that it's again not following the trope of just like I gotta make sure it's super ghetto eyes and super this and super that and
Yeah,
super hood.
everyone's Tanika Wiki Takaka,
Right,
whatever,
exactly. And those are great. Those are fine.
Shawanda,
Right.
but it's interesting that you say that because that's our story, but that's not all of our story.
I would say exactly.
And even if people have these African sounding names, they're more or less not imprisoned by their actions, but what people say to them. We all have read the stories of people see Shaniqua and I'm not going to even interview her. Don't even know what her skill set is, and that's very real. To your point, during the course of it's great to write a book. It's very liberating. Marketing a book is hard as hell. Yeah. And so I reach out and I'm talking to people and I reached out to a friend of mine. We'll just call him Jay. And Jay just got published. So I'm saying, hey Jay, what did you do? He says the guy's from Detroit. I say, hey, I'm from Detroit. Maybe you can set up an introduction to us. And he goes, he's kind of weird. And I said, okay. He says, well, my stuff's got a military flair too. He says, send me your link. So he's reading my link and I'm talking to him about the book, and there's this long pause. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and you probably know, and I know. I said, well, okay. Mm-hmm. And he says, are your characters, are they, he didn't even know how to
phrase it.
Approach it. He didn't. I said, yes, my characters are black. And so for the remainder of the phone call, he's trying to figure out what to go with: black, Negro, African American, Afro American. And I said, look, man, you're not going to insult me. We're just talking. You're and I are cool. Yeah. I mean, but he steers me to a guy. Long story short, this guy's reached out to people in the community who wrote Tom Clancy, Lee Childs, the editors, the writers, the publishers. And he wrote them all letters saying he's in a position where he could do this. Say, you need more black characters. So, hey, I'm your guy. He says, okay, send me your book. And he says, I sent your book out to these people to read it, to review it, because I wanted to get their take. And they were uncomfortable with your urban vernacular. And that really set me back. I said, man, dude, I don't know how to be less black. And he says, you and I are cool.
Thank you.
He says, you and I are cool, man, but that's to your point, man. The way he said it to me was they want black characters, they want black writers, they just don't want to be reminded that you're black. And I really didn't know how to process that. So
James, I was told many times, I don't think of you as black, James. And I'm like, what the F does that mean? I mean, I know what it means, but I'm like, I want you guys to tell me exactly what does that mean. So I get what you're saying.
You're the Magic Negro, man. You're the everybody else but you. And the thing about it is like, no, I'm not magical. There's just I'm just the one that you met. You're watching this idiot box all the time. It's telling you that black people are this, and we're always, we don't have a job, we don't do this, don't do the other. And when that framework is broken, it's like, well, there must be something special about you. I'm like, no, I'm just another guy. Just like there's white criminals and Asian criminals,
right.
And white people who are successful and Asian, but there are black people who are successful. So yeah, it's tough. And it's tough when you're confronted with that because you're like, dude, I just want to tell a story. I just want to write a book.
That's what I said. Now you said that. Let's bring it back to that. The whole thing is Doesn't matter what color you are. If you're a writer, you're a writer. I have a
Yeah.
story to tell. I want to get it out there. And I want people to read it because there are folks out there. There's a wall, a visible wall out there that we have to break when we produce products to get out to the consumers. And there are folks out there who would love this book. They have no idea it's out. They
Yeah.
just don't know. So we got to do shows like this and get chances for you to get it out there. It's like they just don't know. Once it gets in their hands, like, oh my God, I didn't know I was out here, and then they'll do it. But like there are folks, not just Black folks, there are folks, period, who want thrillers and who don't care if the person's Black, white, Asian, whatever. They don't care.
And just like we alluded to earlier, they want something that's beyond the trope. And one, the trope is the hero's always male, the hero's always white. He's always a former Navy SEAL. He's always hardened. He's all alone, and all that kind of stuff, And this was again not an effort to push away that, because there are some things. Jordan is former military, but I wrote from where I came from, and that starting place is different than over here, and that's not necessarily a bad thing,
Yeah.
And I think that's the strength of independent writers. Is that they do have these different viewpoints and come from. There's a young man in his organization I belong to, and he wrote a book, and his character is struggling with his sexual identity, but he also has superpowers. And it's like, will he get a chance to tell the story? I mean, he's independently writing. He's part of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair, and there's a virtual world for that, and you can go in and buy his book. But just that as it is, just reading it, it's just like, man, this guy, he's got a long way to go, because people are going to see that and just kind of, well, he's got to be okay. He doesn't know if he likes boys or girls. He doesn't know who he is. He's got to be in this category instead of being in the action category. And that will, immediately turn off a lot of fans, because they won't even go to that section.
No.
So but as an independent writer, he can do that. If he was a, published writer, no, you can't do that. You have to write, he's got to be this, got to be that, all that kind of stuff. So it's changing, but it is a challenge, getting, there are thousands of books out there, and yours just one book saying, hey, look at me. And a lot of people are doing that. Some of them are really good, and some of them are really bad. But you want your chance, just like
shady,
everybody
but
else.
I've read some books. I'm like, wow, that was something.
Yeah,
that was something. Bless your heart, that was something.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Now I'm looking
you're
back.
So cute.
So, how many books are in this particular series with him?
So, as you alluded to earlier, you can see the back of my shelf.
Yeah.
There's 6 in the regular series, and then I wrote a prequel. The prequel is free if you go to my website, jameshroby.com, and give me your address. I'll shoot it to you. But there's 6 in the book. 6 in the series, I'm sorry.
Well, now I gotta read the other ones. Now I'm like, well, I gotta see what happens next, because
well, if you feel like you have to, go ahead.
Like, now I'm hooked. Now I gotta see what happens next. I can see what goes on with him, and what happens. Does he find love eventually? I'm gonna say anything else. I almost gave something away. I'm just curious if things happen. And then, are there more adventures? And what happened? Who's he up against? And his last sentence, he calls someone. So I'm like, what's that about?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because that was a tough call, because usually that kind of interaction with other people is not common in action heroes, and just without really, I'll say.
I know, I'm trying to give it away. I'm going to read it. So I'm trying to give it away. So I'm like,
but there are some confrontation that Jordan have that parallels mine, and again, I did that so that he can have some more context. There's death that he has to deal with. That's a struggle for him, besides just him leaving the service. And then there's some other issues that he has. I say that to say I wanted Jordan to be a real person, and his friends Don and Malcolm and Eric, they're real people too. And what drove me to wrote that, this really started off as a love letter to home. That I started this when I was in Minot, North Dakota, which is it's culturally and almost physically far from Detroit as you could possibly get.
I've been to Bismarck, North Dakota. I know.
No, Bismarck is the booming metropolis. Let me put it that way. I mean, North Dakota, if you slam on your brakes, you slide right through it.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. Yeah.
but I wrote that because those guys who I based it on were key to my life at a certain point, and I wanted to bring that over because again, usually it's this lone wolf hero is the hero,
Friendships.
but friendship is important.
Yeah, that was in that. No, I noticed that they're friendships, and that's the very beginning. The book is called The Random Affair. It's the first of the Urban Knights thriller series. I'm saying run, don't walk. Well, now you don't have to run. Go online. Go to James H
Go
Roby.
online.
Go online and get a book.
And it's available on Amazon.
And then also on Amazon too. If you don't want, I know some folks don't support Amazon, but it's on Amazon too. But go get books. Go get these. These are. I said I want to read other ones. These are good. I'm already in. I'm telling you guys, read the book. And when you read the book, tell what you think. Tell him what you think. Tell us what you think. I mean, actually, I'll discuss it with you guys out there who are watching. Some of my fans do that. They'll read it. They'll discuss it with me. So bring it out and tell me, and I'll pass it on to him. Whatever comments go on. Because
right. If you like it, tell your friends. If you don't like it, tell me.
I like that. Actually, I've never heard it before. I like that. I do. I like that a lot. I've never heard it before. That is hilarious. Yes, do that.
Do that.
I like that. Thank you, James, for being on the show.
Well, thank you, James. I
Yes,
didn't have to worry about forgetting your name.
I know.
I really appreciate it. I really appreciate this format. I didn't know you had so many different channels. I was looking. It's like, holy smokes, you have a lot. It's like, how do you find the time?
That's the number one question people ask me every time. And I tell people, I have no idea. I just do it.
Well, keep doing what you do, man. Keeping that voice active and real. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. No, thank you. I'm here for all of us. You're part of my village. So what you do,
and it takes a village.
It does take a village, but what you do is again representation, and that is in every form we need it because there are folks who are going to see this and go, "Wow, this is just what I was looking for," or "This I could do this too." And the
struggle is real. It's not over.
It's not over. It's called The Random Affair, you guys. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm James Lott Jr. You can follow me where all James Lott Jr.'s are at James Lott Jr. And we will see you next time.